Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Oxinity channel on education, and today we're going to look at the Scottish and the Irish. So I'm joined here today with some friends of mine. So we've got Ash and Graeme here, an Irish and a Scottish lad in Barcelona. We have B in Barcelona also, Irish, and then Cameron over in Madrid, another Scottish lad.
Hi, guys.
So we're going to have a little chat today about the differences. So, as an Englishman and a person of the world, I want to start by thanking you. I'm going to thank you to start with, right? So first, I want to thank the Irish for bringing us leprechauns.
Okay.
You brought us St. Patrick's Day. You brought us Guinness. You brought us Irish bars in every city on the planet. You brought us good people, and you brought us good crack, so to speak. And for the Scottish, I want to thank you for bringing us absolutely nothing. So cheers for that one, lads. Cheers. But yeah, so I'm going to come to B to start with. And you're first of all going to explain the Celts. So where did they come from?
Well, it's quite an interesting history that they have, the Celts. Historians traditionally believed, and they have seen, that the Celts come from, or are just another Germanic tribe that migrated from the west. Migrated west from Central Europe. And actually, after the decline of the Roman Empire, around 4010 AD, the Angles and the Saxons began moving from mainland Europe and settling all across England and the lower parts of Scotland. However, there is there is a research done by a Dr. Mark Jobling from the Department of Genetics at the University of Leicester, which mentions the Y chromosomal lineage of the Celts. And it shows the migration route moving through modern-day Turkey, across Europe, around the Mediterranean coastline, the Iberian Peninsula, through the Gibraltar End, and all along the coast of Western Europe into the British Isles. And the migration time frame is estimated between 2,000 and 4,000 years ago, which coincidentally celebrates with the evidence found in the Declaration of Arbroath. Graeme, if you're familiar with that, I mean, actually you are, we talked about it a little bit earlier. And if you guys would allow me to read a little extract from that, which was quite amazing to see how history and how the record match with what science is showing us today. So it was written in 1320 by the Scottish barons and nobles, and it was submitted to the Pope John the 22nd, and it mentions the following: "We know, and from the chronicles and books of the ancients, we find that among other famous nations, our own, the Scots, has been graced with widespread renown. It journeyed from Greater Scythia by way of the Tyrrhenian Sea and the Pillars of Hercules, and dwelt for a long course of time in Spain amongst the most savage of people. Thence it came 1,200 years after the people of Israel crossed the Red Sea to its home in the west, where it still lives today." So there is a firm belief that their ancestors migrated from east to west, following the exact same pattern that was described in the journal on the Celtic Y chromosome, the lineage of it. So that was pretty amazing to see how ancient actually the Celts, the roots and the history of the Celts, how deeply rooted it is around the world. And another amazing, a fun fact, if you guys are interested, it appears that the national curriculum in Wales requires that all students learn the Welsh language as part of a Celtic revival project, so to speak. So the Welsh language is an ancient language which branches from the Celtic language, and it's spoken all along the Western Islands, Scotland, Ireland, Cromwell, and Britain.
Amazing. I had no idea.
The Welsh Welsh and Gaelic, is it quite similar? Is Welsh Gaelic different?
The language?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think the Welsh language is quite different.
Yeah, me too.
I think it began similar, but now it's very, very different.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very nice. Okay then. So we all know that Ireland's a very well-established country, but what is Scotland? Come on, Graeme. Tell us.
Well, Scotland. I mean that declaration of Arbroath. I mean, I think when we were looking at it earlier, it's kind of like the first kind of statement of independence. But there's a sort of kind of agreement between the constituent countries. Now, bear in mind that Scotland isn't recognised by UNICEF or WHO or any governing bodies as a country. It's what is called a constituent country. I like to remember my English friends that that's also the same for England as well. Ireland, England, Wales and Scotland are all just called constituent countries. The country is United Kingdom. So yeah, my girlfriend pointed out to me recently that Scotland is a country and I nearly threw her off the balcony. But it's a fact, it's a true fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. So we're going to start then. We'll do some stereotypes to get them out of the way. So let's start. Cameron, if I come to you, what kind of stereotypes have you heard over the time, maybe of Scots?
Of Scottish? Okay. Ginger would probably be the first one. Ginger. Whiskey. People always mention whiskey. We drink a lot of whiskey. Everyone plays the bagpipes. I always get asked, can you play those things? The the men wear skirts or kilts, as we call them. And then a lot of people also ask, usually Americans, is it true that you wear underwear, that you don't wear underwear under your kilt? Maybe I'll ask Graeme that one later. I don't know, the deep fried Mars bar is quite famous from Scotland. Football, violence as well, I guess. Things like that.
We've all heard of them. We asked the teachers, right? We did a poll. So Graeme, what were the answers from that?
They came out were quite similar to what Cameron was saying there. I mean, very religious set of people was one that came out, which I thought was quite true. Yeah, thought of being a very religious set of people. Pale-skinned, hard-working, work hard, play hard. So we've got alcohol issues by the sounds of things. Also that we're both Scots and Irish are friendly and warm-hearted.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that I get that a lot. I get people saying Scottish and Irish, you guys are open, you know, we're a nice, friendly bunch of people.
I don't think I've ever heard a bad stereotype about Irish or Scottish people.
No.
Generally,
Just the drinking.
Just the drinking.
Just the drinking.
which I don't think is a very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That literally was the main set of stereotypes.
Everything. So do you fit them?
Yeah, I fit most of them. Certainly, there was one that came up in one of the later ones was that we eat greasy food, and my cuisine, my prowess in the kitchen is pretty much anything with a frying pan. My speciality is breakfast. So yeah, I fit that. I do like a drink. I'm not ginger and I don't have freckles though, so I'm not sure if I fit that.
You're not a true Scotsman.
Nah.
Well, what about yourself, Ash? Do you think you fit the typical, stereotypical Irish?
In ways, yes,
Correct.
and in other ways, no.
Yeah.
I think, like, again, freckles, ginger hair, no, not so much. Drinker, not so much now. In the past, maybe more. But yeah, I think generally.
Perfect. Okay then. So if we go into kind of the topic of the separation, yeah. So Ashu, I think you're going to explain a little bit about that to us, right? About the island, Southern Ireland, Northern Ireland. Can you explain all the difference?
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things I think that most people know about Ireland, or maybe that they don't know, but they see, is the issue with Northern Ireland and Ireland. And it has quite an old history. You could say, well, depending on where you're from, you could say that the English first arrived or invaded Ireland 800 years ago, depending on who you're asking. And we've had
History says they invaded for sure.
It was an arrival.
Well, I know some people that would say, no, they arrived. Yeah. So yeah, it's had quite a long history involved with England. And to cut a long story short, because you could spend all day talking about this came to a head more or less in 1916. After many problems and many conflicts with England, and eventually we fought for our independence, and we fought a guerrilla war from 1919 to 1921. After this, we gained our independence, but the problem was in Northern Ireland, which this region is called Ulster. This is where many of the descendants of the original British were living, and they were quite happy to be British. They didn't want to be a separate country. So this was the agreement that England made with Ireland. We will keep these 6 counties. The rest of your counties belong to you. And this is what happened. The problem was that in Northern Ireland there were also many Catholics who were not happy with this issue. And this is the cause of the IRA and the terrorism that many people felt like they didn't have a choice. They said, okay, you're a part of England. And this is one of the main causes for this, I think.
Perfect.
And still to this day, it's not as bad, but there are still some issues in
no.
Northern Ireland between Catholic, Protestant, Unionist, Nationalist. It's still an issue that's been descended through the families.
And I mean, we mentioned football, I think, quickly as well. That plays a big part of it, you know, and we're not going to spend the next 20 minutes talking football, but it does play a part, right, Cameron?
Yeah, so I mean, because of the history with the Protestants, the Catholics in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Ireland, the people jumped between the two nations, fighting for either side, which means it spilled across into both Glasgow and Edinburgh, really, but strongly in Glasgow with the two teams, Glasgow and Celtic, Glasgow being the Protestant followed team and Celtic being the Catholic one. And basically people just used football as a cover for religious violence, sectarianism, and fought for years and years and years. And even when I was growing up, there were certain things you couldn't do. I mean, no one would be allowed to wear football strips, regardless of what team in school, in case it started violence amongst. There were certain areas, or just generally, my mum wouldn't let us wear just a blue T-shirt or a green T-shirt because it could be connected to the colours, almost like the Bloods and Crips in America. Like it was that sort of significance. And I remember on the news, you'd always see fights every time there'd be a what we call an Old Firm match, where Rangers and Scotland play together. Rangers and Celtic play together. What I would always notice as well, I have a lot of Irish family, and we'd always be going over to Northern Ireland. And in the UK, the news would never really say anything about Ireland, about what was going on. So you thought there wasn't really much violence or many problems. But then every time you go over to Ireland, you'd see in the news another bomb had gone off. So even like not too long ago, I think even now, you still get some bombs and things. I mean, my sister was at university a couple of years ago in Ireland, and there was definitely IRA attacks and things. Not officially politically anymore, but connected. So yeah, we definitely get a washed down version of what happens in Ireland over in the UK. But Scotland feels it a lot because of the connections people have with family, especially in Glasgow.
Yeah, and I guess that was something as well you said you obviously experienced growing up as a kid.
Yeah, I'm from the part of Ireland I'm from is Donegal, which is in the northwest, and it's right beside Northern Ireland, but it's not part of Northern Ireland, which many people think. They think, oh, it's in the north, Northern Ireland.
No.
But we're very close to the border, and even for my parents and my grandparents, they've told me stories about the difficulties and the issues of even traveling through the border, getting stopped and searched. It wasn't good. Like, it broke a lot of families. This is the problem.
Yeah. And again, like, I think now with Brexit and all this, it's kind of bringing these kind of things back, right? The hard border and all that, which is obviously
this is the main issue of Brexit. This is the problem.
Really?
What can be done? And there are people supporting both sides, and nobody knows exactly what to do. It's too much of an issue.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so Graeme, stereotypically as well, you guys are quite tribal, bit unruly. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Is it?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely. I mean, it goes back in history. I mean, I think the Roman Empire covered most of Europe and then got to Scotland, met the Picts, and built a wall. They couldn't deal with us. And that's for the Celts moving and stuff like that. Then the tribalism. I mean, I remember my friend Jan used to say to me, Scottish people aren't racist. They just hate everyone who's not from their street. And I thought that was quite funny. I mean, like the West Coast, East Coast, you were talking about the Crips. I mean, we have there's an Edinburgh-Glasgow rivalry. There's an Aberdeen, which is where I'm from. Well, I'm from Dundee, but I don't like to mention that to too many people. But I grew up in Aberdeen.
Also known as
soap dodgers. But I grew up in Aberdeen, and I can speak the dialect there. And there's a strong difference between even the people. Aberdonians are really closed, really grumpy, quite aggressive. And then you go to Glasgow, you can't walk into a pub in Glasgow and have a quiet night. Someone's going to chat to you. It's a strong cultural difference. But then you Ouija's, you're a Ouija, aren't you, Cameron, more or less?
Yeah.
What do you think Aberdonians?
I mean, well, basically, like we all say in the UK about Welsh people, you do have a fondness for sheep.
I like the way you put that, mate. That was nicely done.
In a very intimate way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we imagine them as being. I just always think of oil workers when I think of people in Aberdeen, like real tough people, a bit rough around the edges. I mean, they drink a lot. They live in a place that's basically dark every single day, all day long. Very cold, strong winds. So I think they're quite hardy people. Not very emotional, we imagine. But yeah, like really rough people. We also think of Aberdeen as being a very grey and sort of depressing city. I mean, all the buildings are made from granite, which is quite famous for, which isn't the most visually appealing material.
When I go home, I say I'm going back to Aberdeen because it's just grey. Everything's made of this grey granite, and if it's not sunny, it's pretty gothic and very dark. And it's a strange city at night, and it hosts its own kind of culture, and a lot of it comes for me from the dialect, because it becomes such a close culture. Because if you're not from Aberdeen, you won't have a clue what they're saying. I mean, if I was to, I think I was trying with Cameron earlier, I could see him to you. Feliken. Exactly. Feliken.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how are you?
And
You know.
I stand to you for Ken. Ken for you is no as well.
Ken,
Ken?
Ken is
Ken,
like, do you
mate.
know? Ken is do you know, and then we'll put min on everything, stick a Y on every word. I'm catching a bussy. You're working a day, Manny. You know, it's like it's a real strong and like because it's so windy and cold, we talk from the back of our throat. So it's all like I can't like that. So it makes us very difficult to understand, and it leads to that close environment.
Do your students sometimes have trouble with their accents? Because I mean, again, lots of times students, if we're talking about accents, they'll often say to me, "I don't understand the Scottish," or "I don't understand the Irish," and those two countries tend to be the place that they mention when talking about the hardest accents. Have Ash or B or any of you, have you found that students have struggled with your accent?
I've actually found the opposite with my accent personally. In the Northwest, I think we speak quite clear in general.
Where would be typically quite a strong...
Well, I think maybe in around Dublin, like for example Beatrice, maybe, I don't know, with your accent, do you ever have any trouble with your students? The Dublin accent can be quite strong sometimes to understand.
Someone was asking for you to do an example, or maybe just to introduce yourself to let them hear your accent, Beatrice.
For me, to introduce myself.
Just a little Irish.
Oh, all right.
On the spot.
I'll be honest. I do not use any type of accent while I'm teaching. Absolutely at all. I'm keeping it as very pronounced and exaggerated as I am doing right now.
because
How many fingers am I holding up?
Three, of course.
That's the best one. I love it, right? Well, because you're not originally from Ireland, right? So you moved there when you were how old?
I was about 12, 13, sorry, keeping the character, 13.
And how did you find that move? I mean, with the accent, was it tricky? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
It was a little bit tricky considering that the house that I grew in was extremely international. My stepfather is Scottish, my mother's from Romania, my brother is half-breed. Well, he likes to divide himself. When he was small, he used to say he's 50% Irish, he's 25% Scottish, and 25% Romanian. So that was really cute. But yeah, it had a huge influence the household. And my first day in Ireland, it was a complete disaster. My stepfather was trying to figure out what I want for breakfast, and it took us about 2 hours to understand each other because I could not understand the second thing he was saying.
But you picked up the accent quite well.
Yeah.
I can't hear any other accent there.
Yeah.
It's like real typical dope accent.
More or less.
Yeah.
Inner city dope.
I mean, do we have any questions then, Graeme, for the
Obviously-
moment? Go, sorry, carry on.
Obviously, I don't talk as the Broadway or the Hollywood would put it. Top of the morning to you, lad.
Yeah.
No, Irish people don't speak like that.
Because the accents are very different depending on which part you're in, I think.
Yeah, of course, right.
Like in the north, sounds different to the south, to the west, to the east, to Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Even 20 minutes from where I live in Ireland.
Completely different accent.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
We have a saying where I come from that you can hear a Dubliner before you see them.
Probably true as well.
Now the question that came in was
That's completely untrue. Graham. It took you 2 weeks to figure out where I'm from.
well, that's the
Apparently,
thing.
I'm from the Caribbean
I
or
thought
from
you-
Jamaica.
Yeah, I could work out your accent. I thought it was Jamaican at first.
I was undercover actually.
Oh, here we go. Beatrice, you've got a question here. Can you tell us what your favourite film is? And can you use the word film when you respond?
Film.
Oh, well, you're doing it better than this person was trying to test you out with your accent.
Would it be film?
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
Is that
My
what it is?
favorite
I
film.
was trying to think, film.
Film.
Dublin, my favourite film.
Yeah,
Really?
we do
Yeah,
that a
my
bit in the
favourite
northeast
film.
in Newcastle. Lots of people would say film as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah. Well, one thing maybe we can all agree, or maybe another stereotype, is that you all hate the English. Obviously, we know that just comes down to jealousy. But is that
Jealousy for what?
well, you know, it's like if you had a more
Exactly.
successful, better-looking brother or sibling who had a better job, who drove a nicer car, and you'd always feel a bit inferior, right?
I don't know, but
so
now I think it's changed.
We
Now
rest
it's
our
like
case. We rest our case.
so
That's
So-
why.
that's exactly why, isn't it? So Cameron, is it true though? Do you hate the English?
No, I mean, personally, I don't, but then I would be considered a lowlander, I guess, from Scotland. Some people in the north probably genuinely do hate English people. Like, we joke about it, but some probably genuinely do. And maybe, quite a lot have probably never even been to England, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of people in Glasgow, again, there's that divide. The Celtic Rangers thing, so some people consider themselves British, others are strongly Scottish and maybe have a bit of ill feeling through historic origins. But yeah, I think the majority, it's like any country, you dislike people from another part, but it's not like a real hate. It's not like
It's just banter, isn't it?
I
It's
wouldn't
just
offer-
banter.
I wouldn't offer an English. Yeah, I wouldn't offer an English person one of my sweets. It's not like anything like that.
Yeah, it's healthy banter, right? That's what it. That's what you
Yeah.
have to.
For the most part, I think it is. There are some cases, like really the ceasefire with the IRA was only since 1996.
Yeah, it's like in our lifetime, right? It's crazy when
I have
you think
friends
about it.
whose fathers or mothers were involved in the IRA.
Yeah.
And they still have, maybe not strong hatred, but they still have a bit of prejudice.
Of course,
against British.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess that's something maybe with time and
Exactly.
generation may disappear.
It's
You
changing.
know.
I grew up in a pretty anti-English household. I mean, my father's... I mean, I would say he's anti-English. Just the first thing that comes out of his mouth is going to be anti-English when he meets an English person. You know, like, you meet an English person, you go, oh, you're English, I'll forgive you. That's the kind of first thing he'll say, and it's something that I guess he grew up with in his generation. Whereas for me, I don't care. You know, I lived in Edinburgh for that long, and I think Glasgow's the same. You know, you don't meet that many Scottish people when you're in Edinburgh, so it's not really that much of a bother.
Yeah.
Well, like Graeme was saying earlier, Scottish people hate everyone, including themselves. Don't worry about it.
It's true. We don't lose any sleep. It's fine. You guys here then in the room with me. So you're living here in Catalonia. Are there any kind of similarities that you can see between?
Over the last few years, especially here in Catalonia, with the independence issue.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for Catalonians, they see Ireland as an example that they want to try and emulate. They see that we gained our independence, that we fought hard for it, and a lot of people look to us as an example of what you can do when you put your mind to something.
Yeah.
And I think as well, many students that I've had here they go to Ireland to practice English.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah, there's lots. No.
And they have asked, they say, I went to Cork and I stayed in an international school for a month.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they understood English if they're in Cork, but
Yeah.
they went there.
They went there, yeah.
So I think they have quite a strong connection.
And the same for the Scots.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you get it a lot. It's like it's my golden ticket when I do something wrong. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Scottish. You know,
Oh, they love
they're on a Swiss Cortez, and they're like, ah. It gets me off with a lot of stuff, but there's a difference, you know. I mean, I think that's the thing, is that when you look at the Ireland situation, you guys went through a lot of pain to get to that. We don't live in that sort of world anymore, and the Scottish independence and Catalan independence are just legally different.
Yeah.
You know, different things. But yeah,
absolutely.
get a lot of it.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions or anything? Or
No,
not for
yeah.
the moment. Yeah. So I want to think about then. Tell me something that you miss from back home, from home. One thing that you really
Sausage rolls. Yeah. I don't know if they're from Ireland originally.
Yeah, I was thinking. I thought you were going to say potatoes or something. No.
That is.
Potato chips.
Potato crisps.
They're great.
Yeah.
Potato everything.
The typical Irish brand of potato chips.
Graeme, yourself?
Banter. It's banter. I miss.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first came to Spain, and I'm like, why is everyone so nice to each other? I mean, if I saw a friend that he had a new shirt on, I'm not gonna go up and go, hey, you look really handsome. That's a nice shirt. I'm gonna go.
What would you say?
I'd be like, did they make that for women, for men too? Or something
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, that'll be my go-to. I'll rip him. But so I miss that. I really miss, you know, being mean to
me
people
too.
for fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
it's more of a term of endearment.
Yeah.
When you insult people.
Yeah.
Like it's not something to be taken personally. You respond with something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I've offended people by mistake, you know, just that's my chat, and then the next thing I'm like, oh, this person doesn't look happy.
Yeah. Do you think that's just? I feel like we're all probably the same with my friends. Is that quite just a?
I think it's a
UK
similarity we all share, right?
Republic of Ireland thing, no? That we all like to just insult each other, but by a way of showing affection. And you know, I've done it to my friends here, and they've been a bit like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, why?" You know, and I'm trying to just joke with them, but they just don't get it really.
Yeah, you have to be a bit more careful here.
I think it's the northern thing though.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in the south of England and London for many years, and I would have flatmates from England, and you'd give them a bit of banter, like Graeme would do, rip their shirt or something, or rip something they do, and they wouldn't give it back.
Yeah.
So I felt kind of bad that
You feel like you're bullying them after
I'd like
Yeah,
offended them or something. Yeah.
That's one thing we can
But
all
I think
agree
it's
on. We hate the Southerners.
Yeah.
We're all
Slagging is an art form, Cameron.
Sorry?
I said slagging is an art form.
Again.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
As you get judged, it's almost like, you know, you kind of like, what's your mate like? Oh, as you guys say, he's got good crack.
Good crack.
You know, I'll say he's got good banter or good chat. You know, like,
Good banter.
you talk about battle chat. You know, you meet someone who can just rip you, and you're like, he's cool.
Yeah.
It's like a sign of respect.
Yeah.
I respect this.
Yeah, and they just don't have it in London.
No.
So, nah. And B, do you miss anything from back home?
Definitely the potatoes.
The stereotype.
In all fairness, my love for potatoes I came with it to Ireland, and I just discovered the potato world there, and I was in love.
Yeah.
So.
A Guinness? Ash, do you not miss a Guinness?
I miss a good Guinness.
Is it not
good-
different?
Oh,
is it not different
Oh,
in
who
Ireland?
doesn't miss a good Guinness? Yes, it is.
I find that if you're outside Ireland, you can't get a very well poured Guinness.
Nah,
no,
it's
you
not
need to
the
be in
same.
Ireland to get the pouring and
I've
the
heard.
perfect.
So it's not a myth. It's true.
Oh, it's true.
It's true.
It's true. Yeah, you'll never get a better Guinness than in Ireland.
I'm sure.
True.
Perfect. So we have anything else before we?
No. We just that was what we got. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
What do the Scottish do every time there's a major football summer tournament?
What?
What do the Scottish people do every time there's a major football tournament, as in the World Cup or the European Cup? And who do you support, or do you just ignore it? Brilliant. In Scotland, we have a saying: we support two teams, Scotland and whoever England's playing.
Yeah. Well, none of you get to the World Cup, so that's why you've got to support whoever's playing England.
Graeme,
Yeah.
I have a question. What are your thoughts on Celtic and Rangers?
For me, what my thoughts? Well, I support Killie, who are a little team. My old man's Rangers too, but my family are Protestant. Although I'm non-christened, I'm the devil's spawn. But yeah, it's a very thing. If you're Protestant, you support Rangers. If you're Catholic, you support Celtic. And that goes into Edinburgh too. The Hibs and Hearts the same way. Dundee has Dundee and Dundee United.
Yeah, so it's kind of in most cities.
Yeah,
right?
Liverpool,
From what I
Everton,
understand.
Liverpool.
Yeah, you're born into it.
Yeah.
You don't have
yeah.
a choice.
Yeah,
You support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay then, guys. So I think we're going to wrap up a little bit. So cheers for that. That was good fun.
That was good.
And learned a lot actually, and B especially from the start there. That was some really good information. Learned a lot. So thank you for that. Thank you to all of you. I think next week we're going to do the Americans. So some American English.
Yeah.
So the terrible English, the bad English.
The descendants of the Irish.
Exactly. Yeah.
They all claim to be Scots or Irish.
Yeah,
don't they?
yeah. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Slangofoil, as they say.
Slangofoil.
Slangofoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
So, yeah, bye.